We have a metal valve stem, metal cap on the outside tire, metal valve stem, metal cap on the inside tire. Both mud flaps are securely mounted with no cracks or damage, and the reflective tape is also secured. You can step underneath the vehicle to check our coupling. Our kingpin and locking collar are secured, free of any cracks or damage. Kingpin is below the locking collar. Locking collar is completely around the kingpin. There's no gap here between the skid plate and the apron. Lets me know the coupling is secure. I'm gonna step out, looking left, right, left. On the side of the trailer, there's no damage to the skin, no missing rivets. Our trailer markings, our UPS logo, trailer number, reflective tape secured throughout the trailer. Our spray suppressant is secured. Our landing gear, securely mounted, no cracks or damage. No cracks or damage to the A-frame. The boots are in the raised position and the crank handle is secured. Also, there's proper clearance here between the mud flap and the landing gear. Continue down the trailer, checking the undercarriage, looking for anything loose, leaking, or hanging. There's none. Check the trailer frame, has no cracks, no damage, no illegal welds. We have our brake chambers, air lines, air tank securely mounted, free of any cracks, damage, or air leaks. When it's spell to burst air from the air tank to eliminate moisture. Our brake chambers are secured by C-clamps, and behind them there's slack adjusters and push rods securely mounted with no cracks or damage, and the push rods have no more than 1 inch exposed when the brakes are applied. Now from here I'm going to look at the opposite side. Once I get to the other side, then I'll check the opposite side from there. So here we have our opposite side brake lining. This is a minimum 1/4 inch thick, free of cracks and contaminants. Our brake drum, free of any cracks, damage. It's secured with no discoloration that would indicate overheating. We have our leaf springs, leaf spring hangers, U-bolts, bolts, and the torque arm securely mounted. No cracks or damage and no missing leaf springs. The opposite side, inside sidewall, left side sidewalls between the duals, and outside sidewalls for any cuts, bulges, abrasions, exposed cord or fabric. There's no stone or debris between the duals. They are evenly spaced. The tire tread depth is a minimum of 2/32 with no abnormal tread wear patterns. I'm going to check tire inflation with the heel of my boot. It should be 110 psi to manufacturer specs. There are no loose, cracked, or missing lug nuts, no cracks on the wheel, and no rust streaks. Rust streaks are a visual sign of a problem. I'm going to check for a metal valve stem, metal cap on the outside tire, and metal valve stem, metal cap on the inside tire. Wheel bearing lubricant is at its proper level between the add and the fill line. I can see in the container and it's not leaking. We have our spray suppressant secured, mud flap securely mounted. At the rear of the trailer, we're going to inspect the door. Door cables are properly tensioned. I'm going to unsecure the safety chain, secure the door latch, open the door slowly, being aware of loose packages or debris that may fall on me. This is an empty trailer. I'm going to make sure the door opens and closes properly. Resecure my door latch. Secure my safety chain. If it was loaded, check 3 to 5 packages to verify load destination matches the seal control and the trailer number. We have reflective tape at the top, middle, and bottom securely mounted. Our license plate is secured, current, and non-expiring. And you're going to continue this all down the right side. Unless the examiner asks, tell me what's different on the right that we couldn't check on the left side. I'll show you what those items are. We have our king box, which holds our registration to the trailer. We have an auto greaser reservoir, securely mounted, no cracks or damage. Fluid level is between the add and the fill line. We have our exhaust system, securely mounted, no cracks or damage, and not leaking any soot. I'm gonna open the door. We have three bi-directional reflective triangles securely mounted to the floor. Our fender mirror bracket securely mounted, no cracks or damage to the convex mirror. And inside the engine compartment we have our fuse box, which has extra spare fuses if we need them. Now we're going to open up the hood and we'll talk about the engine compartment. Using safe work methods, bending at the knees, palms up, open the hood. Okay, first we're going to Z-scan the engine, looking for any leaks, listening for any air leaks, and checking the undercarriage, looking for any leaks. Checking all belts and hoses, making sure there's no cuts, frays, or any leaks. Our alternator, securely mounted by 4 bolts, no cracks or damage, no damage to the electrical connectors leading to the alternator. Alternator is belt driven. Belt has minimum of 3/4 inches of play with no cuts or frays. Also belt driven is our water pump. Water pump secured, no cracks or damage, has no leaks. We check our windshield washer reservoir. You follow the line here, it'll lead you to the reservoir. Secured, no cracks or damage. We have our tractor frame, securely mounted, no cracks or damage, no illegal welds. We have our shock absorber, straight and secure, not leaking. We have our leaf springs, leaf spring hangers, U-bolts, bolts, and shackle securely mounted, no cracks or damage or missing any leaf springs. We have our brake chamber and air lines securely mounted, no cracks, damage, or air leaks. Our brake chambers are secured by C-clamps. Our slack adjuster and push rod securely mounted, no cracks or damage, and the push rod has no more than 1 inch exposed when the brakes are applied. We check our brake lining. Is a minimum of 1/4 inch thick, free of cracks and contaminants. Our brake drum secured, no cracks or damage, no discoloration that would indicate overheating. We have our inside sidewall, outside sidewall, free any cuts, bulges, abrasions, exposed quarter fabric. Tire tread depth is a minimum of 4/32 with no abnormal tread or patterns. We're going to visually inspect the tire inflation because it's a load-bearing tire. With my foot pressed against the tire, I'm going to push and pull, looking for any abnormal movement that would indicate a worn bearing. There's none. There's no loose, cracked, or missing lug nuts, no cracks on the wheels, and no rust streaks. Rust streaks are a visual sign of a problem. We have a metal valve stem, metal cap on the tire, and the wheel bearing lubricant is at its proper level between the add and the fill line. You can see in the container, it's not leaking. Our mud flap is securely mounted. I'm gonna walk around to the other side of the vehicle, watch your head. I'm gonna Z-scan the engine, looking for any leaks, listening for any air leaks. I hear a small leak, but it's not a safety concern at this point. Checking the undercarriage, looking for any leaks. There's none. No damage or cuts to any of the hoses on this side. We have our coolant reservoir securely mounted, no cracks or damage. The coolant level is at its proper level between the add and the fill line. You can see in the container, it's not leaking. Check your oil level. We check it by pulling out the dipstick, wiping the blade, reinsert the dipstick, pull it out, verify the oil levels between the add and the fill line. If it wasn't, then you add 4 quarts at a time to the oil fill reservoir. Now, you should do this during your pre-trip, but for the DMV exam, you do not have to pull it out. I'm gonna check my air compressor, securely mounted, free of any cracks or damage, and my power steering pump, securely mounted, free of any cracks or damage. Both my air compressor and power steering pump are gear driven. We have our power steering fluid reservoir securely mounted, no cracks or damage, fluid levels at its proper level between the max hot and minimum cold. I can see in the container and it's not leaking. We have the hose connecting from the power steering reservoir to the power steering box secured, no cracks or damage, not leaking. Our steering box is secured, no cracks or damage. Checking our steering linkage, which is our steering shaft, steering box, pitman arm, and drag link are all securely mounted to the front left steering wheel, no cracks or damage. Tractor frame on this side, no cracks or damage, no illegal welds. Our shock absorber secured, no cracks, damage, or leaks. Leaf springs, leaf spring hangers, U-bolts, bolts, and shackle are all securely mounted, free of any cracks or damage, and no missing leaf springs. We have our brake chamber and air lines securely mounted, free of any cracks, damage, or air leaks. Brake chambers are secured by seat clamps. Slack adjusters and push rods securely mounted, no cracks or damage, and the push rods show no more than 1 inch exposed when the brakes are applied. Our brake lining is a minimum 1/4 inch thick, free of cracks and contaminants. Brake drum secured, free of any cracks or damage, no discoloration that would indicate overheating. We have our inside sidewall, outside sidewall for any cuts, bulges, abrasions, exposed cord or fabric. Tire tread depth is a minimum of 4/32 with no abnormal tread or patterns. I'm going to visually inspect tire inflation because it's a load bearing tire. With my foot pressed against the tire, I'm going to push and pull, looking for any abnormal movement that would indicate a worn bearing. There's none. No loose, cracked, or missing lug nuts, no cracks in the wheels, no rust streaks. Rust streaks are a visual sign of a problem. I have a metal valve stem, metal cap on the tire, wheel bearing lubricant,